This is a basic human response that we all have. It's hardwired into our body. Happens in the base of our brain, so we don't get a lot of decision making about whether this happens or not. It just kind of turns on and takes over, and it's a safety mechanism. So what happens when we're in a stressful situation? And side note, our body doesn't know the difference between different kinds of stress and what's coming. So it doesn't know if we're being chased by a bear, or we have a test at school tomorrow, or we were just in a car accident. It really does not know the difference. It just knows it's a stressful situation. So when it happens, our body produces an abundance of three chemicals: adrenaline, cortisol, and corticosteroid. And those three hormones do a lot of different things in our body. But the most important for us to understand in terms of the work that we're doing is they generate one of three responses called the flight, fight, or freeze. And these are safety responses that happen due to the biological changes that happen in our body. So what happens for fight is we're gonna try to fight off the bear, right? Our body tends to go to fight, and we're just gonna take it on, and we have all this rush of adrenaline, so we have all this extra energy, and we are just gonna take it on, right? With flight is we're gonna outrun the bear, right? The strategy is we are just going to outrun him. We get a huge rush of adrenaline so that we can do that. We don't get tired and we don't get fatigued. And so we can take off. And then the third response is freeze. We're gonna play dead. We're not gonna do anything. We are just gonna kind of cower, play dead, and hope that the threat passes. And so it's really important to understand those when we're doing individual work. So what happens when someone has something like test anxiety, right? That's a freeze response. Suddenly they can't remember the information. No matter how many hours they studied, their brain is cut off from that information, right? And then it also impacts couples and families. There's nothing more stressful from feeling disconnected from your person, from the people that you love. And so what happens is is that we get stressed in those situations when we're fighting, and it does not matter if we're having conflict about major issues like infidelity, or minor issues like what's for dinner. Like we've all had the World War III situation about dinner, and who's gonna fix it, or who's gonna clean up after it, or whatever. And so what happens when we have those moments of conflict is we all have our own tendency, our own strategy that we use, and that's based on our attachment history and the flight or fight response. And so those two things together, when we are feeling the stress of our interpersonal conflict, we will either flee, right? So that's withdrawing, is how we talk about that with emotionally focused therapy. Or we will fight, that's called pursuing, and there'll be another video that talks about what those three things are. And the way that those two things interact, the more that I pursue, the more that you withdraw, and then we're kind of off on this merry-go-round.